Update 2. While I was picking up his disabled son from therapy, my son texted, "We moving to Barcelona. Good luck." I looked at the child's brace-clad hands, and replied, "Thanks for the heads up." When he checked his account, I used to wonder if it would always feel like babysitting someone else's child. But that stopped the day Jules fell asleep on my chest after his second seizure and reached for me, not Amara, not Reed, just me. He chose, so I did, too. Reed always acted like the house belonged to him. He talked about our roof, our driveway, our backyard, even when I was the one paying the property taxes. Somewhere along the way, he must have decided I'd handed it over in spirit, if not on paper. But I never did. The title still had my name and only my name. That morning, after dropping Jules off at therapy, I drove straight to the credit union. The clerk behind the desk pulled up the account I hadn't looked at in months. The line of credit I opened years ago for emergencies had been quietly bled dry: home repairs, expensive car payments, wellness retreats in places I'd never even seen on a map. I froze the account, signed the paperwork with a pen that shook just once. Then I called a locksmith. Changed every lock, front door, side gate, even the keypad on the garage. That night, I closed the blinds with a heaviness in my chest, but also something new: control. I couldn't undo the past, but I could stop bleeding. As I cleaned out the hallway closet later, searching for a spare quilt, I found a thick envelope tucked behind the boiler inspection forms. It was addressed to Delacroix Household, legal copies. I sat on the hallway floor and opened it slowly. Inside were printed emails between Amara and a legal office in Spain. Attached was a notarized guardianship transfer request naming Amara as sole guardian and outlining plans to relocate the child permanently. The date on the form was from 3 weeks before they left. My name appeared nowhere. They hadn't just left. They had tried to take Jules in writing, erase me on paper, and make it seem legal in another country, just far enough that they didn't have to explain. I folded the documents neatly and placed them in a folder marked Legal, Jules. My hands didn't shake that time. I stood, walked to the kitchen, and turned off the porch light. If they wanted to take him, they'd have to come through me. The call came in the late afternoon, just as I was folding Jules's laundry. Miss Halliday's name flashed on the screen, and I answered, ready to confirm his next appointment. "Iris," she said gently, "I wanted to check in. Jules has been different this week." I paused. Different how? "He's quieter, more withdrawn during transitions. He hasn't responded to music prompts like he usually does." I looked over at him, sitting cross-legged on the floor, flipping the pages of his favorite picture book without really looking at them. I knew that kind of quiet. It wasn't peace. It was confusion. "I think he's waiting for someone to come back," I said softly. "But no one is." Miss Halliday exhaled on the other end. "That's why I'm calling. But there's something else." Her tone shifted, cautious but firm. 3 weeks ago, Amara asked me a very specific question. She wanted to know what kind of documentation would be required to classify Jules as unsuitable for mainstream schooling. She was asking about long-term placement abroad. I felt the blood drain from my face. She said they were exploring options, that they wanted flexibility for travel. But the way she worded it, Iris, it didn't feel right. It felt like they were trying to build a case. Preemptively. I sat down on the edge of the bed, the folded pajamas in my lap forgotten. "She wanted to label him," I said. Miss Halliday didn't answer at first, but then said, "Yes." The line was quiet for a long moment. Then she cleared her throat. "If you're considering legal